What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show. It is Monday, August 19th, actually, and start of a brand new week, and we're still working off.
I got you loud and clear.
All right. Well, we're back here, and my goodness, that only took about 10 minutes to sort of sort through that mess here. So greetings to our network affiliates who are just now rejoining the network. But we had a little bit of a technical glitch where when I first signed in, everything was working fine. The sound and the video was working fine. And all of a sudden it quit, and I had to restart the computer, and I have no idea why. Anyway, let's see. We're good here now. Okay, so, well, we're back on the air. The phone lines are open. Call on in and spend some time with us. Meanwhile, of course, getting back to the news here, the Epstein case continues to attract a lot of attention. Polls are showing that 3/4 of the American people think Epstein was murdered. We're getting the New York Medical Examiner's Office, of course, has declared by imperial edict that it was a suicide, but a lot of other medical examiners and pathologists across the country saying no, this was definitely death by strangulation. So let's go to the phones now. Sherry in Texas, aloha, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, Mike, thank you. About 5 days ago, I said a few words off the air. That's as far as I can get with the establishment out there. So I'm turning to you because I want to have a say on this. It's not a lot here. There's 3 points I want to make. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity. At least you'll listen to me. They just want to get a gist of what I think. You know, here it is for Jeffrey Epstein. My first impression, and I surprised me. I mean, I don't know if I believe me, but I'm going to be true to myself here. I can't say for sure he's dead. I wrote without, with just free here, not trying to think too hard. He's not guilty yet. He's just someone out there. He's just someone else out there to bring home, like Snowden or Julian Assange. Now, that's number one. I think I said Snowden and Julian Assange because they represent damage to corrupt politicians and dishonest corporations and that sort of thing. They may be friends to us, but they're not friends to them. The second point, I used a word I don't use, which is always a sign that maybe I'm hitting on something. I wrote, appearances belie facts, and facts belie appearances. Well, belie, I looked it up to make sure I'm using it right, and it said to report falsely, to misrepresent, to prove mistaken. So I would say perhaps what people saw was misrepresented. That's a hard one to believe myself, but I'm just going to try to be true to myself here. And then number 3, and this was unexpected too. This came from drawings. If there were any means by which he died, I think instructions would be released in order to expose all involved. I don't think he wanted to go alone, and he might have said something like, if you all want to take me out, then you can go down with me. So just to make it really provocative, if he's dead, maybe we can look forward to information being released.
Well, I'd certainly like to see that. I think a lot of people would like to see that.
That would be nice. That would kind of be confirmation. It's like, okay, if they want to snuff him out, then he's got this person paid and lined up to release something, and he's got this person, across the country over here going to do the same thing, and this one over here. So they'll be coming from different areas. I was thinking of the Shawshank Redemption, too. It was a whole different situation. But, he had all this, he compiled all this information on the guy, and then he went and quietly mailed it out, and took off. I had been thinking of the Shawshank Redemption. Maybe it influenced this thought, but I'm just glad to put it out there. Tell me what you think or whatever. If there's anything else you want to know, I just think there's more to it. and it's hard for me to believe that could be the case, but this is what I got. And I have certain symbols that I draw now since I've been doing this remote viewing for a while. Things like a rake is kind of like a cleaning up, covering up. I have another thing that represents a cover up, something I use here at the house for covering, things up. And when I start drawing these things, I think, oh, this is a cover up. Oh, this is trying to hide evidence. You know what I mean?
Yep.
A bolster. He was, that's a support. He was supported, so he got out of there. And I'm looking more at these symbols that I have found that I've adopted into my drawings now. And a faucet. I don't know what the faucet is, but it had a glove like the kind you wear when...
let's get on back to Epstein here.
Yeah.
It's entirely possible that in order to not set off the dead man switches, that Epstein was literally rescued from the prison. There did seem to be some differences between the body that was rolled out on the gurney and Epstein himself, in particular the shape of the nose and the location of the eyebrows. And so it's entirely possible they found somebody who looked a lot like him and killed this patsy and rolled him out on the gurney and said the guy is dead. That's the end of the story. And Epstein himself is, somewhere in the Caymans or in Israel. It's entirely possible.
Yeah, good.
You're absolutely right. His dead man switches would have been, hopefully, a deterrent.
There was something of a cleanup. I know that involved water. I don't know what that is, but the thing is, I didn't see any of that because I'm not online unless they showed it on TV and I missed it if it was there. I don't think they'd show something that gruesome. But I heard on another show someone made the point that when you roll out a dead person, you cover their face. It's like they wanted us to see. And I thought that was a really good
lot
point.
Of people made that point, that they were saying, see, this is Jeff Epstein. And, if he was already pronounced dead, the normal process would be to cover his face out of respect.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
What are they trying to hide? Well, yeah, and we've, was it Osama bin Laden? Who was it that was dumped at sea and we never got to see what that was all about? It's not the first time we've kind of had these questions, for sure. So I just am thrilled I could finally say it, and get it out there. It's getting hard, Mike, to express yourself these days. Everything's getting so forbidden to say,
Yeah. It's there's a lot of censorship. Freedom of speech isn't free anymore. All right. Well, listen, Sherry, we're going to let you go, and we're going to switch over to Tony in Puerto Rico. Aloha, Tony. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Mike. Do you remember the Kitty Genovese case and the bystander effect? Do you remember that?
I remember that.
Okay. In regards to Jeffrey Epstein, if he was murdered in his cell, he would have been screaming. Somebody would have heard it. Somebody would have called the guards. You don't think that would have been possible?
Well, NBC was reporting that there was shrieking and yelling coming from his cell. CBS said nobody heard anything. Now we're hearing that the prison guards are refusing to cooperate with the investigation from the Department of Justice. So something's definitely going down.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mike.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. We got to take a break here for commercials, and we'll be back with another phone call after these few words. And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Bill in Florida. Aloha, Bill. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, hi, Mike. Hey, you never mentioned anything about your move. How did it go? This is your first day here in the United States, on
no, not yet.
Soil here.
This is still Oahu, and next week we're going to be staying at a hotel nearby. Our flight is actually the end of the month, but we got to get the car dropped off, and right now Claire and Carolyn are getting glassware ready to donate to a local church. And there is just so much to throw away here, but we're right in the thick of it.
Don't worry about it. You can
I've
always
never
buy it
been
again.
so tired.
Don't worry about it. Relax. Hey, I thought you were already here in Indiana. Jeez.
Nope, not yet. Not till the 1st of
All right,
September.
well, good luck. Keep a stiff upper lip, as they say.
How can you tell with the
Catch you
mustache?
later.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Raleigh in Minnesota. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Michael. Thank you for taking my call. Unfortunately, I got to tell you a little bit more about what's been going on with the All Ages Drag Show. Yesterday, big news about Portland, but in Denver, there was another All Ages Drag Show, but this time it was called the Baby Drag Ball, geared towards babies doing drag. On the poster, it says from 8 to 11, but it seems that it's marketed more for toddlers and infants.
Well, I got to tell you, I find that appalling. I find it to be on the same level as those baby beauty queen pageants. If you remember John Benet Ramsey and that whole setup here, I think kids ought to be allowed to be kids for as long as they can, because growing up and growing old, it's a one-way street. You don't get to turn around and go back.
We're all for ending the sexualization of children altogether. And if little girls are dancing on stripper poles, we're going to be there as well. The thing about it, though, is to be a stripper, and I'm talking about like a regular stripper at what they call a city bar, they're usually women that are 25 and they've gone through a lot of sexual abuse, and maybe they have a baby father that's locked up somewhere. These are children. And if they're babies, they lack all agency altogether. They're grooming these children for sex. And they're as young as 0 years old. I'm not even talking about 5-year-olds anymore. They've actually gone that far. They've gone to those numbers, not even actually having an age yet. And there was a major clash of cultures at the baby ball yesterday. We got footage, and there's going to be another protest that we're organizing for Minnesota. In the morning, they're going to have an all-ages brunch where they're going to serve alcohol, and it's going to be a striptease for little kids. And there are girls there, too, that actually do the striptease. But it's only geared for gay men who are part of NAMBLA. NAMBLA is packaged, if you really look at it. And I need more people to help us. We don't have any red hats out there whatsoever. There's nobody that's a diehard Trump fan that's out there. It's B for Vendetta Mask. It's the Operation Death Eaters. It's the Anonymous. We're getting called far-right activists. Can you believe that? What world do we live in when Anonymous is getting called far-right?
Well, I personally find that sort of thing appalling. I think it's bad for the kids. I don't see any purpose for it other than the gratification of whoever's sitting in that audience. And again, to me, children ought to be allowed to take their time growing up. And this is basically forcing them into at least an awareness of adulthood and adult issues. And it's stealing their innocence from them, stealing their childhood from them.
You're absolutely correct. And I'm going to be out there in Minnesota all by myself. I'm going to be there holding a banner. We're not going to have a crew like we have in Denver. It's just going to be me. And there's about 6 of those clubs all together, and there's a big crowd. And there's a plague of insanity out there, of crazy people. You see what happened in Portland? They run up on one guy, that's elderly, and they harass him. It's going to be the same thing, and I'm going to be out there all by myself. You live in Minnesota. We need your help desperately. If you think that millennials are just totally useless, you're dead wrong. We're out there protesting. Our generation matters. We're willing to fight. If you're not willing to help us, you don't go on your binge about millennials. Just take your RV and your Asian wife. But we need help desperately. And make a stand. It's the code of being a man. Children are innocent. If you're a man, you should know that by now. You should be able to make a stand yourself and help us any way that you can. It doesn't have to always be dollars and cents. It's moral support. Just being
all right, well, listen,
Raleigh,
I hate to do this to you, but we got to take another break for commercials. Thank you for the phone call. Good luck. I wish you success.
Hey, respect us.
All right. Talk to you soon. We'll be right back after these few words. And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're still talking about Jeff Epstein and his very colorful life. And apparently, next top model scout Jean-Luc Brunel flew 3 12-year-old triplets in from France as a birthday present for Epstein. One can only imagine what he did with them. All right, let's see. We're going to go back to the phones here. Joe in Tennessee, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. As a sailor, I spent a lot of time going through San Francisco, and it's always been one of my favorite cities, not for its...
It used to be a beautiful place.
Just a beautiful city, and you can walk around across the city and all around the city, so you don't have to be spending all your money on taxis. And Chinatown's wonderful. North Beach is great. And it used to be you could stay there like in not really flop houses, but very reasonable hotels. I used to stay at a place called the Gates Hotel, and it was on Ellis and Powell, and right near the cable car, and it was like $140 a week. But all that's gone now. But I wanted to talk about, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were saying, we got to bring these mental institutions back. These people are crapping in the street and everything there. And I got to tell you, any of the big cities you go to now, it used to be there were public bathrooms, around anyway.
Yeah.
And now, it's very difficult to find a place to go to the bathroom. I mean, especially imagine having no money. They're not going to let you into a bar, a restaurant. So I think part of the solution to what's going on in California and San Francisco and L.A. is to put up like porta potties or something. I guess they might, it's just, I just find it hard to believe that somebody, even though, mentally ill, would rather like crap on a toilet than squat in the street. And I just think that part of it is, these cities have become like for the rich, and they exclude all the like places, even like when I go in the city now, I'm like, New York or whatever. It's like, where can you go to the bathroom? I mean, it's not like, even the train stations, and they've cut a lot of them down. I think, maybe it's because they got bad reputations for people shooting up or gays or whatever.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think that's a big part of it is like, I don't think people want to crap in the street excuse my French. I think they just don't have place to go, and otherwise I could just see the people going, oh, well, it's an eyesore, it's this and that. But I would rather like have them put some porta potties on every third or fourth street corner or something.
Well, that would be nice, but how do you pay for it? See, that's the problem. Nobody's got the money to do anything along these lines. The money is all gone for interest on bank loans. It's gone for the war. It's gone for Israel. It's gone to the rich. And I've noticed, even here in Oahu, more and more businesses are closing their restrooms off to the public. And
and then what are they going to do? People have to go to the bathroom somewhere. I've told you I like going to Thailand a lot, and in Thailand they have places you go pay like 5 baht or 3 baht, which is like less than 10 cents, and you use a toilet and it's clean, and they have fresh water in there to wash your hands and everything, and they're all like, it's a business. I mean, but it's not like gouging people, but you can always find like a toilet to use there, and you don't have people crapping in the street, and they could say, some people say that's a second world country or third world, and not because of that. And so I think, maybe make it where it's somewhat profitable, or maybe there's a lot of rich people in California. They could, make a donation or sponsor it, sponsored by Oracle or Google. Google, have an app, like where the public bathrooms are that are clean and safe. And I just look at it like a practicality, like how to solve this problem. And I think that there are solutions, and that's kind of my game, is to try to solve problems.
Well, that one about the pay toilets, of course, the people living in the streets still have to come up with that money to pay for the toilet, but that's one possibility. Rich people don't make a lot of donations, unfortunately. That's why they're rich.
You can make like a coupon or a credit and give them out, like instead of giving a homeless guy like $5, give them like 6 toilet coins, you know. I'm just saying there are ways to get around this, and you know, you have a toilet coin, you know, like, you know, so, but anyway, I don't hear anybody mention that. And I think it is something that's like at the heart of the problem. I think that if they dealt with it in some way, I mean, I heard that they were spending like, you know, $30 million with guys going around with carts and brooms. And it's like, well, why don't you just put some toilets around, you know, and then maybe, you know, not to get a guy out of a job, but, you know, maybe that would solve the problem too. You know? Well,
instead of walking around with a cart and a broom, he could be taking care of the toilets and maintaining them.
Right. And then
I think the big issue, though, is the scale. And there, unfortunately, are going to be people who, even with the availability of the toilets, they're just going to go right in the street. And I know this because many, many years ago, when I was still working as a professional magician, and I worked in Magic Mountain, and one of the venues where I did my act was right outside one of the restroom facilities. And I remember one time watching this, I have to be honest about it, Hispanic family just dumping right on the grass with the restroom right behind them. And so, yeah, that was kind of an eye-opener there.
Yeah, it's hard to get out of your mind when you see something like that. I know Michael Savage talked about being at a restaurant and somebody doing it right outside his window. I just like, how do you get that out of your mind for a while, you know?
No, you don't.
But I just think that, you know, you don't have to put these toilets everywhere. I mean, the rich areas probably you wouldn't need them out near Nancy Pelosi's house. But, I mean, there are areas where you do have more homeless, and where they are, just put a few of them, a few more. And I think that 90% of the people that are crapping in the street now would probably use a public toilet. And then, like you say, there's 10% that are either crazy or culturally different, and they might still crap in the street, but it would be a huge improvement, you know? So anyway, there we go.
Well, the problem is if there's a way to hook it into the sewage system, because the porta potties, they have to be manually emptied over so many days, and that's going to be a major cost. Anyway, listen, thank you very much for the phone call, and we're going to switch over to Steve Elkins. Aloha, Steve. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, my understanding is, from my contacts in San Francisco, is that they tried that already with the porta potties, and appears to be kind of a homeless rebellion going on right now, that they're actually most are refusing to use them, and it's kind of sending a message. I think there's kind of a rebellion with the homeless right now in San Francisco.
Yeah, I could see how that would come about.
They're wanting more, they're wanting something, so they're making it very difficult, very unsightly, in order to get their demands met. And I don't really know what their demands are, but they have tried the porta potties. That was a great idea. And that was the first thing they did before they brought in these cleaning teams. They thought, well, we'll provide them something. And it didn't work. They were still defecating outside of these little facilities. So good try, good idea, good try. But I think there is a rebellion going on with homeless in San Francisco.
Well, there are so many homeless out there. I mean, were they to riot or go violent, it would be a major problem. I mean, there's enough homeless people out there to basically form an army.
Yeah, they're very visible, but you'd never know that with mainstream media. They don't want to talk about this. Of course, if they show the pictures of this, then the politicians will have to get out there and do a little song and dance, and they have no solutions to this problem. It's growing and growing. We've seen those pictures along Anaheim, the river there, and on that GoPro bicycle, and the same going on in Oakland and other parts of California. It is a growing problem, and politicians don't have a slight idea, any kind of ideas how to fix this, and it is getting worse and worse.
It's because the economy is on a downtrend, and
I agree.
Yeah, the politicians don't want to fix the economy because that would upset the rich people.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it for me, Mike. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Peter in Los Angeles. Aloha, Peter. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, just in line with what Steve Elkins and Joe were talking about, in Los Angeles, my wife is involved with this at a pretty high level for the budgets in LA, for the city government. And, first off, taxpayers are fleeing this state by the hundreds of thousands a year.
Yes.
And we are, because we are a sanctuary city and state and county, by the way, people who don't pay taxes are flooding in, and the homeless population is ballooning. And even though the city council is dominated by Democrats, whenever they try to get approval to put up a new site for porta potties or shelters or whatever, the local council people mobilize to say no. They don't want it. They don't mind overall having these people coming in, the sanctuary stuff, and all these homeless people coming in. They just don't want it in their neighborhood. They want it somewhere else.
Yeah, the NIMBYs.
Yeah, they're all Democrats. But what I wanted to talk about, if I could switch, was you already covered the pedophile, raping, human trafficking. Israeli blackmail ring, Jeffrey Epstein, that everybody talks about aspects of it except for the fact that it's linked with this group of billionaires who virtually own our government. And they were blackmailing who they couldn't buy. They were blackmailing. They've been doing it for decades. But I wanted to also then switch to Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, who the two congresswomen who tried to go to Israel, and Trump said no. Can you imagine with separation of powers, where the president's saying deny these congressmen entry, for one thing?
Yes.
And of course, that allowed Israel to say no, because Netanyahu, up for election, didn't want to scare his voters and think, well, they're going to be out all the billions that we give them every year and risk the U.S. Purse strings by denying U.S. Congress people to oversee what we've been subsidizing to a fairly well for years. But at any rate, with Trump's basically a cover on that, saying he did do that. But imagine it's akin to the CIA basically spying like they did several years ago on their oversight committee when they were talking about torture. It's like the Congress can't go and oversee how we're spending billions and billions of dollars, and we're letting the client state and its fifth column and its bot politicians, including Trump, say now that the president can deny, and other countries who are ostensibly our clients can deny entry of U.S. legislators because they don't like their politics. Man, oh man, is that a dangerous thing.
That is a very, very dangerous precedent, and you're right. It does seem to violate the separation of powers doctrine because members of Congress go on fact-finding trips all the time. And so, yeah, this was a slap in the face to these two congresswomen. And the fact that Trump went along with it, it's another reason to just say, yeah, he's not a very good president.
Well, also, Mike, the Democratic Party, is paid lip service in support of Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. But that's all they're going to do. Nothing will come of their protests.
No.
They won't go any further than making a tepid comment and then going back to try to raise more money from the people who are buying them every day, which are these Jewish billionaires. But then there's Bill Maher. How about Bill Maher and what he said? Did you hear that?
No, I missed that one.
Well, Bill Maher was basically telling the Democrats to shut up. There's no reason why. Basically, he came out against Omar and Tlaib and saying that the Democrats should basically just wash their hands of them and that they had every right to deny them entry. But this is a guy for freedom of the press, by the way.
Yeah.
This goes along with freedom of speech, freedom of the press, separation of powers, and the way we conduct our foreign policy. All of these messages that are being sent are catastrophic.
Yes.
So
no, I'm in agreement with you, and I'm not surprised Bill Maher said that. He kind of, out of one side of his mouth, he talks about freedom of speech as long as it's his speech, and then he'll come out with these other comments about, this person should be silenced and that person should be blocked, and so forth and so on.
He's a Jewish supremacist. Let's face it.
Yeah.
Nothing. He won't ever criticize Israel. He goes along with the people that own his network. That's why he's there. If he wasn't that way, he wouldn't be there. He wouldn't have a job. It's nuts. It's really nuts. But it was really a stark reminder of where we stand when American congressmen get refused entry to an ostensible client state. It's just it's unbelievable, really.
Yeah.
So, and now we're almost unable to talk about it and criticize them. So, well, that's it for me, Mike. I see your walls are empty. You got everything?
The place is getting emptied out here. We got people wandering out there in the hallway, and I still got stuff I got to throw away here. I'm just really exhausted. All right, well, listen, Peter, thanks a lot. We're going to switch over to Dustin in New Jersey. And Dustin, I'm going to have to take you through the next commercial break. What's on your mind?
If I get cut off, it's because I got a nasty thunderstorm, lightning storm coming through. So.
Oh, okay. Well, good for you.
Yeah, it's been humid in New Jersey for the last couple weeks, so it's pretty bad.
Well, it's always humid in New Jersey. I understand the state bird is a mosquito.
Yeah, talk about mosquitoes. My whole legs are filled with bites from mosquitoes, and that's wearing pants outside in humidity. Hi, Mike. I'm going to tell Joe from New Jersey, you have coupons, then you had Groupons, and then you got poupons. It's funny.
Okay.
Mike, it's the society, along with the government fails, and the society is failing because nobody has respect for anybody else, and they don't even respect themselves anymore. And they put those, like Steve Elkin says, and then Peter from California, they put all these things in San Francisco.
Okay, Dustin, I got to put you on hold. Don't go away. We're going to come right back to you after these few words. Aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking with Dustin in New Jersey. We're talking about basically the deterioration of our civilization, our society, our cities. And a lot of it has to do with the politics of greed, in that the greedy people, the rich people, they want more. And that, of course, leaves less for us to take care of our lives with.
Isn't it amazing? They make all these movies like Elysium, where all the rich people on that space station, and all like the people, like Matt Damon is on the ground to fend for themselves. That's what and then they turn around and say, oh, they care about the people. Bill Maher is a piece of garbage. They don't care about you. None of these people do. They'll throw you away with they did with automation. They threw you away.
Yep.
They don't care about you if you eat each other and crap on yourselves in the city. It's Tale of Two Cities. It's like Hunger Games.
Yes.
They got the city, and then the outskirts. I know you talked about this a couple of days ago. The city's all great, and then you go out to the outskirts. It's all run down crap. It's only the inner part of the city, like New York. But when you get out further, it's like, it starts to be run down, like Chicago. You got your nice parts, you got your bad parts, but the bad parts are going to keep getting worse because nobody wants to fix anything. They don't live in those parts, though. They don't care. They live behind the wall, like Washington, D.C., it's a ring of steel in that area of Washington, D.C. Outside, they got high crime. They don't care. And it's going to get worse. It's never going to get better.
It's going to get worse and worse until finally there's a rebellion.
Yeah, Mike, I'm just curious. You know a lot about Rome. Did Rome have this problem also with rich? I would think because it's just human nature, rich and the poor toward the end. Because I know there's
you had the Palatine Hill where the royalty lived, and it was absolutely gorgeous. Nero's palace, was just gigantic. But as you went down the side of the hills to the outer city, it got really, really kind of gritty. And of course, the Great Fire cleaned a lot of that up. But a lot of people thought Nero set that deliberately because he wanted to re-engineer the interior of the city.
Well, I hope they don't do that now, because the only way you can re-engineer is a couple of nuclear bombs hitting the cities in the outskirts, tactical. You know? But I mean, it is reminiscent of just Rome. This whole Western society. Like if you go to Britain or France or Germany, they're all in trouble. They're all rotting from within. Also, it's not just us. You know, it's the whole Western civilization. You know, we're turning into crap, basically. You know, there's nice areas, but it's just like I don't think it's going to get any better because nobody's willing to fix anything because they like it the way it is. They like their lifestyles the way it is, but unfortunately, their lifestyles don't reflect like the reality. You know, and that's all I got to say, Mike.
The rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and it's been that way for a very, very long time. But we are heading toward what might be described as a Malthusian catastrophe, and a lot of it has to do, again, with the growing human population. And maybe they're planning on having a world war to try and deal with that.
And before I get off the phone, Mike, it's the economy also. You know, that affects everybody. And, it gets worse, then people get more desperate. You know, they become homeless because the owning a home is all in a bubble. Or having an apartment, $2,500 a month, $3,500, whatever it is. You know it. All right, Mike, have a good show.
All right, thanks an awful lot here. I'm trading texts with my wife. We're trying to get all this stuff done here. And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Hour number 2. The phone lines are open, so feel free to call on in and spend some time with you, with me here. Apparently, Joseph Mifsud has confirmed through his lawyers that he is a Western intelligence operative, and he is not, as the Mueller team tried to claim, a Russian operative. So they got caught lying on that one here. So apparently out on the campaign trail, Liz Warren is out there saying that God has called her to run for president. So she's playing the God gambit, the religion gambit, if you will, here. And apparently Trump is going to try and clean up the mess out in California with the election system. And apparently he's running into some resistance there. People aren't cooperating. Of course, we knew that when he first set up his his voting irregularities commission, his voting integrity commission, rather. And they were going around to all these states, and all of these state election commissions just kept saying, no, we're going to slam the door. We're not helping you find anything. And so we know the elections are crooked. And it's another reason our society is falling apart, because ordinary people like you and I, ordinary voters, we've lost our franchise. Nobody cares what we think anymore because the elections are being rigged. Okay, apparently over in Syria, a Turkish convoy has been targeted by the fighter jets. Apparently, this little brouhaha between Turkey and Syria, this buffer zone idea, is not working out all that smoothly. And obviously, that is yet another flashpoint we have here on planet Earth here. Okay, let's see. U.S. is planning to send nuclear reactors to space. Well, they've already done that. Radioactive thermal isotope generators went on Viking. They went on the Apollo landers for the ALSEP. Australia is considering lifting its nuclear energy ban. So they may go back to trying to build some reactors as long as they can do it safely here. Okay. Apparently there is this 500-year-old boys choir, and they were sued by a girl who wanted to join them. and say, you're discriminating against me just because you're a boys' choir. I should be allowed in there. She lost her court case. And I think that's a little bit of common sense. And somebody's got to do something about all these trans athletes. This is just absolutely unfair to those biological girls who are competing as biological girls. And it's not being discriminatory. It is just common sense. All righty. The economic news is still showing indications of a coming recession. Trump was out there the other day saying, oh, no, don't worry about it. There's no recession. But the indicators are definitely there. Now, the stock market was up today. But we're seeing all of these people come on out saying that what's important isn't the condition of the economy, but the confidence of the people. And if we can just keep everybody feeling positive about the economy, then everything will work out. Well, they were saying that back in 1929, so I don't know how well that's going to work on out. All righty. Speaking of Bill Maher, apparently a far-left Democrat is calling for a boycott of Bill Maher. So the left is in full civil war. By the way, speaking of Ilhan Omar, her district is named the worst district for Black Americans in the United States. So not doing very good over there. Okay, we're going to go to the phones now. Frank in North Carolina. Aloha, Frank. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, thanks. I'm sorry I missed that. Which district was that?
Ilhan Omar's.
Yeah. I had heard a couple times today. In fact, I turned on Rush Limbaugh while I was eating my lunch today, and I'd already heard it on another show earlier this morning. But you're talking about a political fundraiser that former vice president, et cetera, Dick Cheney had for Trump. And back when I kind of really woke up and the blinders came off, about 9/11 and everything, I just remember, Dick Cheney was like, number one, number two, or number three, at least, in the enemy hit list as far as the patriot community, was. And I just wonder, what does that mean that he is holding fundraisers for Trump? Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard that, and I guess Trump is trying to build himself a war chest with which to beat the Democrats, and I guess all the loyal Republicans are just chipping on him wherever they can. Whether it signifies that Donald Trump and Dick Cheney are buddy-buddy, I don't know, because remember when 9/11 actually happened, Trump came on out and said the building should not have collapsed that way.
Well, he should know. He's into that business. But hey, do you mind real quick if I promote my new website and radio show?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. That was just a joke. I'm sure that probably took a lot of people's breath away. I'm just joking. But no, I would recommend, though, the genocide, the white genocide conspiracy. I hear it's really powerful, by Adam Green at No, as in KNOW, morenews.org. The White Genocide Conspiracy. Pretty powerful stuff, pretty sobering. So anyway, I appreciate it.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to let you go and switch over to Al in Canada. Aloha, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Yeah, actually, my breath was taken away. If he's going to plug that, and I'm going to plug Zeitgeist and the Venus Project. So the economy, as you very well know, cannot be fixed. It's not possible. The Federal Reserve is still holding just over $4 trillion that we know of in garbage debt they're trying to unwind. That's not the only central bank on the face of the planet doing this kind of nonsense. 30% of the world's economy is held by central banks.
Yes.
Which means that they are holding on to garbage, and it's coming due. But not only is it coming due, we're going down again, Mike.
Yep.
I don't care what Donald Trump. Obviously, the plunge protection team is in full swing here.
Yes.
Because I watched one of these Trump rallies, and he was saying that if the Democrats get elected, that, you know, though your 401ks, gone. So you want to talk about fear-mongering, Mike.
Yeah.
That's insane. Well, you know, how can you say something like that to a crowd of people?
Well,
you know?
I mean, you know, fear is a powerful motivator, and you know, both sides are playing that game right now. I imagine as we get further into the election season, that we're going to see the Democrats coming on out and screaming about all kinds of terrible things that are going to happen if the Republicans maintain control of the Senate and the White House.
Yeah, I wish people would wake up, because, like you said, fear is a very powerful motivator, but haven't they worn it out yet? You know, it really doesn't. You know what motivates
it takes a while for fear to wear out. It does wear out eventually. Your brain exhausts that neurotransmitter, and you stop being afraid, and all that's left is anger. But it does take a while.
All that's left is anger. One of the things that motivates me is trying to open people's eyes, or even if you know they can't be woken up. And I think people are now using this thing called woke.
Yes.
I'm not really into, you know, all this LOL and this blah, 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 you know, taking the human language and just twisting it all up into nonsense. But it's really nice to even to see people even consider what you're saying is true. I mean, most people really don't know that, you know, our currency is a loan at interest. They cannot grasp that concept.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense to them. They figure the government just prints it on a press someplace. So, you know, I mean, once these things start to happen, then you're probably going to see a big change, a big shift in how people react. I mean, things are changing now, but it seems to be slow, Mike.
Well, I think, you know, the people who are directing the world are trying to go sort of slow so that we don't wake up. But on the other hand, they can't go too slow because more and more people are waking up. So they're kind of stuck.
Yeah, and they bring out these silly little things, these Instagram and these crazy little apps that twist people's face. I mean, the voice is coming. I think maybe it already is. I don't know. I don't use a cell phone, Mike, so obviously distraction is key in these sort of things to try and keep people domesticated or docile, or however you want to describe it. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Anyways, Mike, great show. And, you know, it looks good here on your laptop. Not too bad.
Well, you know, I've got a hard line here, but I do miss my regular setup with the mixer and everything. And
oh, yeah, you have that mute and all that, right?
Yeah.
Right at
And
your fingertips, so you can take your headphones off and it doesn't make any noise and all that stuff, right?
yeah, where I don't have that here. I don't have any way I can mute the microphone. Anyway,
I know.
Mike in our control room is saying that we should mention Deep Fake's full video face replacement AI technology.
Yes. There's another good one, right? And you know, and here's the thing: these CPUs that are coming out now, like AMD's new Ryzen 3000 line. I'm still in the old 2000, but I mean, this stuff, the power of this is just unbelievable. So it makes these sorts of things so simple to do. You know, anybody can do it.
Yeah, so next time I do the show, I'm going to make sure that I look like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
You know, Mike, you look good. You got a nice head of hair there.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Anyway, you have a good show, Mike. Have a good one.
All right, thanks an awful lot here. You know, it was kind of funny. Growing up, I didn't do a lot of the moose and whatever. My younger brothers did. Hot combs and all the rest of that stuff. And they both lost their hair at an early age, and Mine's getting a little thin. There's no question about that. But in 10 days' time, I'll be 67 years old, and I still have most of my hair. All right, let's go back to the phones here to Mark in North Carolina. Aloha, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Aloha for the last few days, I guess, that you're there. Anyway, listen, what you just said about Dick Cheney, Tricky Dick there, this shows you that it's gone full circle now. The neocons are now confident that they're neocon Trotskyites. They're confident that they now got Trump in their grips and they don't have anything to worry about. He's their boy now. Here's another thing I was trying to tell you, too. While I'm listening to watching you on one thing on my phone, I'm also got YouTube on my TV, and I'm watching True News. Okay.
Okay.
And it just had something about autonomous ships. This country is now planning on building these huge battleships and destroyers and all that because they're concerned about China, as if China is not going to do the same thing. Now we're going quickly to the Terminator. I mean, this is, when I first saw the Terminator first, I thought it was basically great entertainment and all that. But the more I look at it, and the more I keep watching the Terminator series anytime I can get a hold of it now, because it is like a prediction in the future, Mike. I'm telling you, we're headed to destruction with this stuff. People don't understand even what they're doing with these robots. These things are capable of getting human intelligence and then some without human emotion or feeling. They will take over this world. They'll destroy the human race, period, if we let them, okay? You cannot let this happen. Somebody's got to stop it. Unfortunately, because one country does it, the other country. So you got the United States, you got Russia, and you got China all working in this, whether they want it or not. Putin's warned about it, but he's got no other choice but to go along with it because he knows that if he doesn't, they're at a disadvantage. So what's going to happen at some point, these monsters are going to take over. They're going to start, first, I don't know, can you imagine a naval battle with robots? But the people that be firing, if they go off a certain coast of, let's say, the U.S., China, or Russia, or something like that, or Europe, they'll start firing real missiles and bombs and start killing the people of these countries. And sooner or later, they'll just trigger off a complete nuclear exchange, and it's goodbye. These people are mad, Mike. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm telling you, it's terrible. It really is.
I agree.
About the same age.
I agree. I remember, back during the first Cold War, and being shown these movies in schoolrooms, like Duck and Cover, Bert the Turtle, which we now know was ridiculous propaganda because pulling a picnic cloth over your head won't save you from a nuclear bomb. But it was to sell the idea that nuclear war was survivable, to try and silence everybody who was standing up and saying, no, we need to back away from this.
I know.
And now, of course, Trump is pulling us out of another treaty that limits the number of warheads both sides have, and that just increases the potential for more damage and more danger.
When I was in the Army, one of the things in basic training, they used to, part of the drills, what do you do? It wasn't really, what do you do in case of a nuclear attack? And you're supposed to say, you throw yourself on the ground, cover yourself up with your poncho, which is a raincoat, an Army raincoat, issued raincoat. But we all knew what the real answer was. Put your head between your legs and kiss your butt goodbye.
Yes.
I mean, it's obvious. But I don't know whether when they taught this stuff, whether they believe this is so or not. But I'm telling you, Mike, this is worse now because now we got robots are going to control this thing. It's just getting worse and worse, worse and worse. Hey, by the way, I got one more thing I just want to tell you about it. With Epstein, here's my prediction.
Yes.
The two correctional officers are going to be fired, and made to look dereliction of duty, but they'll really be multimillionaires, living somewhere in maybe in the Caribbean or something like that, or maybe in Hawaii, okay, enjoying themselves with the money, okay, with the money they're getting from maybe the Messiah, who knows. And as far as the the guy with the 4 homicides in the backyard, the big muscle man there.
Yes.
They're going to find out they don't have enough evidence to prove any of the 4 homicides he's charged with, and he's going to walk scot-free and also be a rich man somewhere. Okay, that's my prediction. I don't know about yours, but I think that.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens there. So thank you for the phone call, and we're going to start with Paul in Montana. And Paul, I'm probably going to have to take you through the commercial break. So what's on your mind?
Mr. Rivero, a few minutes back, you were talking about Nero and his Rome revitalization program with the fire. But sometime around the 5th century, some old boy emperor came up with the term proletariat. And keeping proletariat in mind, what does prohibition, the moral majority, and the gun control advocates have in common? Well, I'll tell you, they're a very small, very vocal part of the proletariat that keeps shouting loud and long, and with media gets reinforced constantly and constantly.
Okay, Paul, I got to put you on hold. I got to put you on hold. We'll be right back after these few words. Aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're talking with Paul in Montana. We're talking about ancient Rome, the discovery of the proletariat, or the invention of the proletariat, and this idea of a socialist/communist society. And so, Paul, pick it up from there.
So we look at fast forward to prohibition, and then we'll forward to the moral majority, and then we'll forward to the gun control advocates. And once again, we've got a very small percentage of the proletariat with the backing of media that is just reinforcing this into the heads of the 88% of the proletariat that'll go along with whatever is coming down the pike. For instance, Ocasio. And did you hear? Blondes are now telling Ocasio jokes. I'll listen to your comments on the air.
Okay, yeah, that is funny. Blondes are telling Ocasio jokes. All right, let's see. We lost Rick in Arizona, so we're going to clear the little chat log here. Okay, apparently over in Texas, several of their government organizations have been hit by a ransomware attack. Apparently, 23 organizations connected to local government have been infected with ransomware, and it was obviously a coordinated attack. And apparently, the situation was still ongoing as of this morning. And it kind of makes you wonder, we hear all these wonderful things about the NSA and what good cryptographers they are and what good hackers they are, and yet the ransomware problem continues. And either the NSA isn't as swift as we have been led to believe, and in fact they may be just a huge waste of money, or the NSA are the hackers. And it's just another way of plundering the country for money with which to pay the war. So, anyway, moving on down the list here. Apparently, Microsoft has a little bit of a public relations problem in that their latest privacy policy is saying that, yes, in point of fact, vendors are listening to voice data. I mean, this started with, Amazon had the problem, and Apple's got the problem with Siri. People don't realize these little convenient devices are listening to you all the time, and that information gets sent along for presumably marketing research, but it does invade your privacy. And, there have been accusations that some of these vendors are listening to people in their most personal private moments, like sex. And I'm sure for the exhibitionists out there, that's a good thing. So anyway, yeah, we are spied on quite a bit. Privacy has become extinct in our society, I'm afraid. So apparently, Beto visited a gun show right after he was calling for gun confiscation. That must have been a very, very tense situation here. Colin Kaepernick tells Anthem protesters to keep on protesting despite the NFL's new focus on social justice. Now, here's one that weirded me out just a little bit. We're talking about spying, being spied on. And apparently a lot of airlines are now putting little tiny cameras in the seat back in front of you, looking back at you to record you. And keep an eye on you, I guess, to make sure that you're behaving yourself. Or again, to try and figure out what is interesting you on the TV screen, what you're looking at in the magazine, and so forth and so on. All right, we're going to grab ourselves a phone call. Chance in West Virginia. And Chance, I'm going to have to take you through the commercial break. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Mike, you made a comment before about something is going to be done with the transgender athletes. You know, this all started back when they allowed females in the military, boys in the Girl Scouts, girls in the Boy Scouts. You know it's planned chaos because you know you're going to have to make arrangements or accommodations for each sex now in one organization, whether it be bathrooms or living arrangements. True?
Yeah. It's a confused mess. Now, I want to back up here to comment about women in the military. And I think for the mechanized forces, like Air Force and Navy, I don't have a problem with women in the military.
Well, I don't either in certain positions, but not in a combat area or where male dominance is needed. Yeah, in the infantry. Yeah. In that capacity, but see how confused like I said, you're going to have to.
It is Chance.
Yeah.
Got to put you on hold. Got to take another break for commercials. Sure. We'll be right back. Aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. We're talking with Chance in West Virginia. We're talking about all this gender confusion that we are seeing in our society. And it is being ramped up. It's being done deliberately. And again, I don't think women in the military, in the mechanized forces, is a bad idea. But all this other stuff about trans athletes and that earlier caller was talking about, child strippers. I think it's sick, actually, to be very honest. I think we live in a very sick society right now.
Yeah, it is, Mike. It is sick because little boys should have a little club of their own. Little girls should have a little club of their own. And when you start tearing these basic things down, it's planned because there's biological difference, hormones, sexual urges involved. You know that they did this deliberately.
Yes.
And it's a shame because now everything's in tatters. Little boys have a bond with other little boys, whether it be Little League or Boy Scouts, or so do girls in their own little clubs. And by doing this, they just blew everything to hell. And you can see the results now. I'm called a sexist sometimes, and I hate that. I says, well, I'm a sexist because I believe a male should be the protector of the female? You call that a sexist? I have a duty and a job to take care of the female. She's supposed to be his helpmate, but he's the stronger of the two. He should be the one to, and they accuse me of being sexist for that. What am I supposed to say? Well, the hell with the female? I don't think. I wasn't raised that way. And I'm sure most of your listeners haven't neither. And we're the ones being called sexist because we don't believe in this nonsense. And all you got to do is look at the results. I'm not saying segregate the two sexes. Of course not. But each sex growing up needs their own identity. They need to associate with their own kind and like I said, little boys need their little boys club, little girls need their little girls club, but they just it's total chaos.
Yes.
And if we know this, you know damn sure that the powers that be that are doing this know this. Now, I don't know about the idiotic liberals out here. Maybe they're just brainwashed. But it's hard to see that they can't look at the chaos that they created and say, hey, this didn't work. We went overboard. You'll never hear them admit that. They'll just rather watch society be broken up into so many pieces. True?
Well, I think that's part of the goal here, is to keep us from uniting as a single American people. And they want the blacks at war with the whites. They want the Hispanics at war with the Asians. They want men and women at war with each other so that we can't unite against an increasingly oppressive tyrannical government.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And it's becoming more and more obvious every day along every line, whether it's gender, status, economically, racial. I mean, they're just chipping away, and people, I don't know. I like to think that the majority of people are waking up to this plan. What do you think?
I think people are waking up to it, but they don't know what to do, and they don't know who to do it with. And again, that's part of the divide and conquer strategy.
Well, they better put their heads together soon, because if this keeps up, we're going downhill very fast into total chaos, which
Yes.
they want, which the powers that be want. People have got to figure out ways to overcome this nonsense. All right, Mike, that's all I had to say. Thank you now.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go here. The phone lines are now open. And more from the Jeff Epstein situation. Apparently, his lawyers were convinced that they could actually win the case and get him off the hook. And so, as we already reported earlier, Epstein was spending something like 12 hours a day with his lawyers. Now we're finding out he thought he could actually win the case and avoid going to jail. So it's another reason to doubt that he committed suicide. And again, we have all of these medical examiners and pathologists who are out there saying, no, the broken bones in the neck are indicative of death by strangulation, not by hanging asphyxiation here. All righty. So, getting on to more news here. Apparently, a woman has been thrown in jail and her child taken by Child Protective Services because she successfully treated her cancer with CBD oil. So Big Pharma is out there enforcing its marketplace. You're not allowed to cure yourself. You're not allowed to use anything that they don't sell you. It's like with this whole thing about forced vaccinations. It's all about the money. It's all about, forcing you to buy products that you really don't want. But it does show how far down the path toward fascism this country has really gone, where, the government is making you buy things now. Okay, apparently over in the Gulf, the Marines are starting to strap armored vehicles to the decks of their ships so that the Iranian boats pose less of a threat. And I'm guessing these are smaller boats that don't really have a lot of artillery. But things are getting very, very crazy over there. All righty. Apparently, Rashida Tlaib attacked Bill Maher over the boycott, divestment, sanctions movement. This led the World Jewish Congress to compare Rashida to Adolf Hitler. So that's where we're always, you're Hitler, Hitler this, Hitler that. How did Hitler tie his shoes? Little Nazis. Anyway, a lot of people still looking at the student loan issue. Okay, over back in Los Angeles County, they actually have leprosy. Now, if you're like me, you probably thought leprosy was something that was in the past, Kingdom of Heaven, Middle Ages. But apparently, leprosy has returned, and otherwise known as Hansen's disease. It's rarely seen in the United States, but cases continue to emerge in Los Angeles County. So somebody got through the border carrying the illness, and apparently Dr. Oshua and colleagues identified 187 patients with the disease in a review of medical records from the leprosy clinic spanning 1973 to 2018. Most of the patients were Latino, originating from Mexico, and they experienced a median delay in diagnosis of more than 3 years. So there is a real problem here. Alrighty. Story coming on out of Investment Watch blog. China's food prices are soaring. It's starting to happen here as well, saying it could lead to war. So apparently, over at the central bank, the shift in central bank monetary policy direction during the last 6 months hasn't been this dramatic in a decade. And the central banks have run out of room to battle deflation. So they're running out of tools. All right, we're going to take a phone call. Rick in Arizona. Aloha, Rick. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
A couple of things quick. Epstein. I think if he was really killed, does he have any relatives? Like, I never hear nothing about his mother and his father. Does he have any kids, brothers or sisters? There would be a wrongful death lawsuit involved here. Number two, I would say that Trump is working hard on cleaning the swamp, right? He just appointed an executive from Raytheon as the Secretary of Defense, not a soldier, but an executive from okay, and then the undersecretary is from Lockheed Martin. So all you AM radio hosts out there that defend Trump vigorously in talking about the swamp, I mean, this is that's really ridiculous, actually. I mean,
yes.
And then there was this police officer who allegedly killed this black guy for selling cigarettes. Remember that guy that was laying on the ground saying, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe"?
Yeah.
Remember that? Okay, well, they just fired this cop 5 years later.
Yes.
Okay.
But they didn't prosecute, and they're still saying he's got a great record.
Well, here's the deal. I think the guy just retired. That's it. And I'm suspicious if this guy was really even killed, because if he couldn't breathe, he couldn't say, "I can't breathe." I don't know. Everything's suspicious. 5 years later, they fire him. I think he just retired, and then they tell the public, "Oh, we fired him." 5 years later, Mike, they fire him.
Yep.
Bullshit. The guy retired. I'll bet you he retired. A lot of these people that they claim are getting fired for like opening their big mouth, a lot of them are leaving with golden parachutes. They're retiring out. This is what I heard from, I can't remember who it was on Rents, but they were talking about all these people that allegedly have been getting fired and, quitting because they were racially, they're just retiring. And it all looks like they're being, punished for being a racist. Okay, thanks for taking my call.
All right, you got it. We're going to let you go here. Could very well be that's what's going on. Right now, the police are trying to polish their image, and Claire and I were noticing on TV, there's a whole new raft of these live cop reality shows where somebody with a camera follows the police around while they're arresting the bad guys, and again, trying to work on their image that the police are the good guys and that we shouldn't be upset with them when they accidentally kill the family dog or something like that. Okay, NASA sent this probe to an asteroid named Bennu, and they had kind of a nasty surprise because they had assumed that the asteroid had a dirt-like, beach-like surface, and now that the probe is actually there, it turned out to be intensely rocky, which is going to make the sample return part of the mission just a little bit tricky to pull off. So let's see, where are we here? Apparently there's a new flavor of Linux out there called MX Linux. And Linux is really catching on with a lot of people here. I'm hearing good things about the Raspberry Pi 4 and how powerful it is, which I haven't been able to play with my Raspberries for lack of time here. It just hasn't happened here. Another article, this one is from Ethan Allen's. The American capitalism is based on plunder. The plunder is getting worse. That's certainly true. Plundering the rest of the world. And we can either do it peacefully or we do it militarily. But that's what's propping everything up right now. Okay. Apparently down in Australia, there's been a bit of an upset. There's a library that's promoting a transgender ideology book that describes a 6-year-old liking oral sex. And apparently some 60 of the libraries in the system carry the book in their youth section. This is way out there. Kids need to be allowed to stay kids for as long as they can. They'll grow up eventually, and there's no turning back. But to deliberately try and force them into adulthood, you're stealing their childhood. You're stealing their innocence. It's like going on out and screaming, "There is no Santa Claus on Christmas Day." I know that's true. You know that's true. But let the kids have their little fantasy for a little while. Okay. Apparently, Christian singer is out there targeting this recent swell of religious leaders denouncing their faith. There has been a lot of televangelists, people who had like really well-established TV churches, and then they just say, "I've lost my faith, I quit." And we do know that Christianity is very much on the decline in this country, indeed around the world. A big part of it may be the pedophile scandals, which continue to erupt. Another part of it may simply be that people are looking around at the condition of the world and realizing it is inconsistent with the presence of a divine, benign being. So, anyway, here's another article on Epstein, top forensic pathologist. Only 1% of hanging deaths resulted in a broken hyoid bone. And as I said earlier in the show, polls are showing 3/4 of Americans think Epstein was murdered. And I'm definitely one of them here. Stacey Abrams is out there warning that elections are rigged with voter suppression more insidious than the 1960s. They're also being rigged with those electronic machines, unfortunately. And a lot of states are still using paperless voting. No way to audit the results, no way to double check. And yeah, it's a crooked system. It is a crooked system. The protests are continuing in Hong Kong. China continues to point their finger at the United States, saying that this is an attempted color revolution. And the U.S., of course, is denying it. But it is causing a huge amount of chaos out there. And yeah, it could lead to civil war here. Apparently, 5 Yemeni missiles hit targets in Saudi Arabia's Najran Asir. All right, we're coming up here on a commercial break. I'm exhausted. I'm whipped. I got packing to do. I'm going to do one more segment of the show. Hour number 3 is going to be a replay tape. And I apologize, but there's only so much Michael to go around. We'll be right back. Aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And as I mentioned before the commercial break, I'm going to do this one segment, and then we're going to have a replay tape for hour number 3. Because as you can tell from the people moving around in the background, we're still trying to get packed. We're running out of time, and I'm just flat out exhausted. So thank you for understanding, and hopefully I'm going to do the whole show tomorrow with better organized talking points, because I wasn't able to get to those this morning either. Anyway, the Syrian army has broken through militant lines to advance on Khan Shaykhun. So, again, still going on in Syria, going on forever. It's all these wars are just lasting forever. We're finally trying to get the heck out of Afghanistan. What is that, 18 years? Their kids driving around with driver's licenses weren't even alive when that war started. All righty. Apparently, Syrian and Russian fighter jets pound and block Turkish Army's military convoy to Khan Shaykhun. My pronunciation. So, yeah, that's really heating up over there. And all righty. Apparently, Twitter is now running paid ads from China State News Media criticizing the Hong Kong protests. And I've noticed the few times I've gone on Twitter lately, yeah, they're running ads now. Can't get away from the ads. And I shouldn't be so critical, because a big part of my career early on was in advertising, and I won a bunch of awards. And even when we moved here to Hawaii, we were producing radio and TV commercials for the local market. But sometimes it does seem to be getting very oppressive and heavy-handed. And we've also noticed there's a lot more commercials between the TV programming than there used to be, which is why I don't watch TV anymore. I'll record it on the DVR, and that way I can fast forward. All righty. Apparently Denmark is going negative interest rates. If you buy $1 million house in Denmark, you only have to pay back $995,000. They're talking about negative interest rates here in the United States on savings accounts. That's just going to cause everybody to pull their money out of the savings account, which is probably going to accelerate this whole idea of a cashless society. You know, you will have your money in the bank, and we will shave a little bit of it off here. And finally, apparently, the national debt spiked $363 billion in 2 weeks, $1 trillion in 12 months. The question is, who's buying this pile of Treasury securities? Well, probably the Federal Reserve. They just create the money out of thin air, and they're buying the Treasuries until finally they own the government here. All right, there's the music. Time for me to get on out of here. Again, hour 3 is going to be a replay, and after that is going to be John Stadmiller. I'll be back tomorrow, hopefully rested and ready. So have yourself a good evening, and aloha.